The remedy. The remedy. What's underneath the situation you don't realize? So let's examine with a critical eye. Put on your glasses and let it magnify the truth that lies hidden under all those lies. Cause everybody has nobility, and if you look beyond what your eyes can see, you'll see they're just like you and me, and now we're giving you the remedy. Welcome to the Remedy Podcast. This podcast is a project of WEBB Squared, a North Carolina nonprofit that works to increase wealth for Black businesses through connection, network, and opportunity. Our host is Stephanie Terry, the Executive Director of WEBB Squared, and our co-hosts are Associate Director Rinnie and myself, Mashallah Salaam. I am the Media and Production Specialist. In this podcast, we hope to bring consciousness to the racial divide and speak on emerging new narratives about race. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you will enjoy the podcast.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Mashallah. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
So much to talk about. Where to start? First off, I'm Stephanie Terry with WEBB Squared, the Executive Director.
And I'm the Associate Director of WEBB Squared, Rinnie
And I'm Mashallah Salaam, the editor and producer of this podcast.
Yes.
The Remedy Podcast.
The Remedy Podcast. We want y'all to get to know who we are.
Yes.
So let's do some check-in. How is it? For real, not the I'm fine answer. Actually, how really is everyone?
Well, I guess I'll start. It's just been a really interesting and also difficult time. My father's been in and out of the hospital. A few months ago, our family was dealing with COVID, so that was very tough. It was quite an obstacle, but we got through it, and most importantly, we got through it together as a family, and we stayed hopeful as we could in those times. And my dad, he suffers some complications due to, I guess, previous health things going on with him and his heart. So yeah, we've just been dealing with that. Thankfully, my dad is getting better and stronger.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Mashallah.
Yes, thanks, Mashallah.
Yeah. So my husband has been also in and out of the hospital dealing with heart surgery and complications from being a type 1 diabetic. So it's been a challenge to watch him just struggling with his health and just trying to figure stuff out. I'm learning to step back but still be present, and to stop thinking like I have all the answers and allow the ways and means to emerge, and to just trust the process, which has been phenomenal, approaching illness and health and someone that you love. I'm the type of person that always wants to know all the answers, control everything, and I have absolutely no patience. And so this has just been a fantastic experience from that perspective for me, to practice patience, to practice surrendering, letting go, and just being remaining positive in the but not having control. So for that, I'm grateful.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mashallah. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing so deeply. The struggles that you and your family are going through right now. I guess I could just lift up that July came into my life like a rodeo or a hurricane, and stuff happened and shit happened. And it's complicated, but it really does touch me on a deep level because of the work that we're doing when we talk about relationships between Black and white people and the complications in interpersonal relationships of like, you know, that our stories are very important, and sometimes we come together and we can't, for whatever reason, share those stories. But yeah, does that make sense? Like,
Totally.
It would just be really, if we could share our stories, we could move along, and I think we can heal a little bit the damage that's, you know, done racially, and then just gender, male-female relationships, our inability to connect, and our inability to just see each other as human beings.
Yeah, you know, I wanna, this is bringing to mind something. And it's this like narrative that like it's not okay to be emotional, or like emotions are not okay. And I don't think anyone ever like, I don't think I've read anywhere that says emotions are not okay, right? But the way that we like live in our society, whether you're a white person, you know, when you're at work, you're supposed to be professional, and you know, don't mix business with pleasure, yada yada. And then with, you know, black people, where like you see all the drama and it's put like in a negative light, right? For like the women, but then the men are supposed to be like these stone cold. Oh, I don't have emotions, and it's like, who said like? So if we can't, let's like look at that. That's like a Western thing.
What do you mean a Western thing?
Like, that's what, I don't think indigenous cultures have a worldview around emotions that way. I mean, like, they're expressive, you know, like, if, you know, like, for example, I don't know, I only know one, like, true Native American, so this may be just what I saw on television, right? But, you know, like, the rain, like people dancing and shouting and it, like, you know, crying and sweating. And I know in indigenous, you know, African cultures, there's expression, like emotion is a part of expressing the human experience. And in Western culture, that is just not internalized. And the way that we deal with that is by this like objectification of like actors, and only in certain arenas, right? So that's why we love our, you know, entertainment people, because they are like expressing for us, right? And then sports, they're like expressing like, okay, you can get emotional in sports. But how crazy is that? That we don't value like a huge part of ourselves. Like, we don't value the expression of that. And what does that do? How does that fragment us? And how does it inform like our belief systems and the stories that we just tell ourselves?
Well, I have been working a lot with stories. I'm doing a lot of writing, and through writing, I'm telling stories. And one of the things that has been really interesting for me as I learned to find my voice as a storyteller is that a lot of times when we write stories, the writer itself is detached from the story. And I've been putting myself into the story. And so I'm on a wild adventure with a trickster god in my stories. And I'm a character in the story. And when you're a character in the story, it's harder to detach yourself from the story as the creator, as the writer. You are feeling the feelings that you would feel as if you were on the adventure, you know? And so I hear what you're saying about we kind of detach ourselves from feeling. And maybe part of what our work here with WEBB Squared and working with entrepreneurs is helping people find their voice through their stories, and in a real way that they're able to actually experience full embodied experience of, you know, who they are as a human being on this world.
What do you think, Mashallah?
Well, I realized kind of recently that there were certain things that I was keeping in, and certain things that I was afraid to express, which in turn made me express things in a way that wasn't, I guess, productive or helpful, especially in my discussions. Like, I would try to hide one way that I was feeling because I thought that it was shameful to feel that way, or I didn't want a friend to see what I was really thinking or my real emotions. So then I would cover it up and then say something else, and then it would just cause a lot of confusion, and then I would have to go back and finally admit what I was actually feeling, and then they would be like, oh, why didn't you just say that in the first place?
Right. So that brings up, both of what you said brings up 2 points. The point that you just made, Mashallah. So if we do that to our own stories, how we understand how the cultural stories, the social stories, how that happens, right? Because we do it to our own stories. We change, we conceal, we repress, right? We try to make it fit so it can be acceptable, and we all do it, Mashallah, not just you, you know, and there's an effect from that, and then you know, if you just replicate outward, that happens. But you said something, Rinnie, that I want to bring up, you know, because you're a writer, and you're an awesome writer, by the way, and you're a character in your story. Well, guess what? And you said you're the creator of it. We're the creator of these stories. We are characters in our stories of life. We're it, and we're the character. We're the writers. We're the directors. Like, we're all these things, which means that we're like responsible as the writer, as the creator, as the author. Does that make sense?
We're responsible, but most of us are kind of going around blindly being responsible. Like, we don't see the bigger picture. We don't see that we're the creator in our own story. We don't see that we're the actor in our own story.
Yeah.
And part of it is social conditioning, that we are taught just to kind of follow along the, you know, like someone else has made the roadmap. Somebody else has said, this is the narrative that you need to follow. This is the map that you're guiding. And so I think in our work here with WEBB Squared, when we talk about the fact that we're creating mindset classes for entrepreneurs, part of lifting that up is going to be this conversation we're having right now. Like, you are the creator of your own story. You don't have to follow this like pre-programmed system. You can change the operating system by which you live your life, you know, and see through a different lens.
Yeah, we're creating more powerful Black entrepreneurs. Like, that's the work of WEBB Squared. We're creating powerful human beings, right? Powerful human beings that have agency to create, you know, their dreams, their desires, their hopes, their visions, their ideals, in knowing that they have everything that they need to make it as much as they want, and also, but within a context, and this is very individual, within a context of whatever that person's life's purpose and soul purpose is, right? And that's not something that we can decide. That's something that each one of us discovers, you know. And if you're on your path, you'll know, or if you're not on your path, you'll know, which will help you get on your path. The reason why we wanted to do the Remedy podcast is because we wanted to emerge narratives that get us on the road to healing racism, right?
That's correct.
Did I say that right, Rinnie?
Yeah, and the remedy for me is, to make it personal, like, I am a white woman who, until last couple of years, have never been able to speak about race. I mean, I think, and I'm not the only one, I think there are a lot of white people out there who are so scared and so intimidated by speaking about these things. And for me, it's like when I started emerging from that fear and could actually start thinking about it and talking about it in a real way with people, I started to feel like I had this coming out of some kind of deep soul sickness of just not being able to engage with the reality that white supremacy has really harmed all of us as a culture, not just Black people, but white people too, that we're so fundamentally broken because of this idolatry around the white skin, that we are unable to really step away from our own whiteness in order to engage it in such a way that we can make a difference and we can change the narrative. And so for me, the idea of this remedy is breaking through that tension and saying, hey, wait a minute, I can talk about this. I can be a part of the solution. And maybe my voice now, I can reach out to help other people who want to see their way through the illness and come out the other side, where we can actually start giving people a chance to heal and giving people a remedy in order to change this overarching, we talked a little bit about it as an operating system, change the operating system in a way that we all can come together. And the values that we have adopted for WEBB Squared are around equity, unity, abundance, and interdependence, that we're all connected to each other in this earth, that there is enough for everybody. There's enough love, there's enough healing, there's enough money, there's enough food, that this planet has an abundance for all of us. And if we come together in unity and equity, we're gonna find a different reality underlying this toxic, pervasive reality that I don't think serves any of us well.
Yeah. I think what you're describing, how my filter interprets that, we are emerging values that take us into a completely different paradigm. Right? We're moving from one paradigm to another. The paradigm that we're living in currently is based on scarcity, is based on separateness, is based on mechanistic thinking. Everything is just physical. It takes gives no deference to anything emotional or energetic. And the new paradigm that we're moving in is completely opposite. The old paradigm says that the environment makes the person, and that you're an effect more than a cause. The new paradigm says, guess what? We are energetic, and because we're energetic, we're completely interconnected, right? Is that we're actually the cause of the effects and not the other way around. That because we're the cause and because the world that we're operating in is energy, is that there's an abundance of everything, right? It's just completely different. And so in terms those so there's stories. There's ways that we're going to get there, and it's going to start with stories. And let's look, all my race equity trainers, I know we got systems and we got to change. we got systems and policies. I get that. In no way am I discounting that. But who makes the systems? Right? Systems just don't make themselves unless they're nature systems. Right? But the systems that operate our institutions, we make them. We maintain them. And so this is a mind shift. This is a heart shift. The work is the programming. The work is emerging the heart, the energy center, as a place where we can make decisions from. Woo! It goes against, don't make emotional decisions. Well, why the not? I mean, we don't like run towards a bear or a lion or stump into fire. That's an emotional decision, a good one, a wise one, right? So that's why we're here. We don't have the answers. We have, some answers, right? Our answers, may not be yours, but we're willing to just take some courage and some vulnerability to talk about them. So that's why the remedy and the community that we're building with WEBB Squared with our wonderful Black entrepreneurs across the state of North Carolina. We want to, like I said, make more powerful human beings.
Yeah, this actually reminds me of this amazing TED Talk that I watched recently. And I wish that I remembered the woman's name. She actually passed away, I found in the comments, but she was doing some really amazing work. I think it was in New York. And she would get strangers together to just talk about their problems and what was going on in their lives. And she said, you know what, maybe we should help these people, like all together, just brainstorm and see how we can help make their dreams or wishes come true. So she talked about how, the first person, they said what they wanted. They said that they wanted their own place and that they wanted to find love. And so they all together teamed up and helped this person to gain more confidence to get to the place where they wanted to be. And they ended up having all of those things.
Wow.
And it didn't just stop there, but she was just telling so many amazing stories about how that just kept happening. Like a person would come up and they would say their dream, and it could be just the most wild thing. One lady said that she wanted to dance with Patrick Swayze, and you would think like, oh, how is that going to happen? But another lady raised her hand. She was like, oh, I work at a place where he comes by often,
wow.
And I've danced with him, and I'll see if you can dance with me too.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was just amazing, and just more stories like that. And I was like, this is one of the most powerful examples of community that I've heard, because you really can come together, just even as being strangers, and find a way to help each other. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, we just live in this secluded area where we grow our own vegetables and just like are away from all other humanity and society. But it could be in the kind acts of strangers, just being in the right place at the right time, or just getting together and having connections, knowing people that know people.
That's right.
And then I thought, wow, that's like WEBB Squared. And it was just really amazing because like everyone coming together to help each other, build each other up, to be entrepreneurs and to get the things that we need in order to do that.
Absolutely. Which brings us to how you're here, Mashallah.
Yeah, I want to lift up your work, Mashallah, and your Afro Future Productions company, and that you're one of our entrepreneurs in WEBB Squared.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's just like what you said, Mashallah. Like, we needed a video producer for the podcast, and like you were in our community, and so it's like a win-win, because we get to hire you, you get to practice your business, not practice, do your business, right? And we get to expand. So tell us more about Afro Future Productions.
So I first created the idea for Afro Future Productions. I really got into Afrofuturism and just the overall concept and what it represented just seeing.
So I'm kind of a dummy. What is Afrofuturism?
So Afrofuturism is a way of seeing ourselves, Black people, in the future where we aren't usually represented, usually in sci-fi and things that are considered, I guess, like nerd shows and I guess like Star Trek and Star Wars. We aren't always shown as like the main character.
Got it.
Yeah, we aren't shown as the main hero in a lot of these movies, and a lot of the time in these shows we aren't even seen in the future.
Like the Matrix?
Well, Morpheus, but we weren't the main, like we were helping Morpheus.
Right.
I mean, not helping Morpheus, we were helping the main character.
Yeah, got it.
What was his name?
Neo,
Neo,
which means new.
Oh yeah. So even in the Matrix, the Black character was helping Neo to become the main hero of the story. So either we're the magical Black character helping a white person to become this powerful person, but we're not seen as that main hero.
That's right.
So with Afrofuturism, we're able to create those stories and create, or just expand our imagination to where we can see ourselves in these roles. And I feel like that has a major impact on how we see ourselves in our own world as well. So that was just really interesting to me, because growing up seeing shows where we were main characters, or movies where we were main characters, the narratives were very negative.
Yes.
There was a lot of hurt or pain or living in poverty or just being in the worst situations.
The infamous good times.
Oh, yeah.
Where it never worked out at the end.
Yeah.
Every episode was a failure.
Yeah.
But, ooh, good times.
And I remember watching that show, and I mean, it was entertaining, but at the same time, it's like, when is it gonna work out for my family?
You got it. So what we were so excited about also, Mashallah, is that you emerged the true stories, like stories, not even just the true stories, the hidden stories that none of us know, around African Americans and I should say people of the majority, right? Of the global majority, of like all the contributions that we have made in all the areas, whether it's science, whether it's art, whether it's math, all the areas. And so you've been lifting up some of those stories. And when we saw your video about, what was his name?
Mark Dean,
we were like, holy smokes, like, why don't we know this? And look, I'm giving you an assignment, because I don't know if this is true, but do some research. I think that I read that The Matrix was written by a Black woman.
I heard that too.
Okay, and that it was either co-opted or taken, and that she sued. And so again, it's this. So we're lucky to have you. I think you're going to share something about this topic. What did I say this topic was?
Narratives, emerging new narratives.
Emerging new narratives and the power of narratives, and and why it's, I don't know. We were talking about emotions. We started off with emotions, but just kind of centering new ways of being other than just plans and programs, right?
Or I was in a state where I felt like I had to force myself to be more, be better in order to actually make a difference or make a positive change. And then I realized, even through my darkest moments, I was still willing to be there for others, and not just willing, but like it felt healing for me, even in those moments, to be around others and to be helpful and to listen to other people.
Well, yeah, we're excited to hear it. You'll share it, and maybe we'll talk about it later. But we've got Rinnie.
Yes.
Since we've been so off cuff, what are some of the amazing topics that we're going to be talking about in the remedy?
Oh my gosh. Well, one, we're going to do a lot of storytelling. We're going to be going through history and looking at narratives and like you said last week when we were thinking about things, like, we're not going to do the sad, sorry stories. We're going to be looking at empowering stories that when we look at them, they're like, wow, this is inspiring. This is a way of like emerging our own narrative by being inspired. And we're going to continue to have these conscious conversations where we talk about who we are in relationship to the values that we bring to the table as a company, WEBB Squared, but also as individuals. We're going to be talking about our own stories and getting personal with the audience as well. Our own struggles around these concepts of what is race and what is white supremacy, and how do we like talk about this, and how do we build community around it so we're all working for the common good. And then I think we'll probably go into some theology and some philosophy, and we're gonna look try to figure out and parse out like the beginnings, like how did this all come about anyway to begin with. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be looking at, and as we develop our work here at WEBB Squared, the podcast is a way of like connecting and building community around these deep themes that we talk about here in the office and spend like 2 or 3 hours a week or more talking about. And so we're just bringing you all into the conversation with us.
Yeah. And we're you said theology and philosophy. We're going to talk about the church and the stories that we grew up learning around the church, and how they support, or like, are they true? Like, do they make sense? And we're going to talk about it. We never talk, they said, don't talk about religion. Right? Well, we're going to talk about it. So I'm excited. Thank y'all. Maybe one day we'll figure out how you can call in so you can like really join the conversation.
Well, we have that. We know that we're going to do a Patreon, and then we'll have like a monthly conversation for those who subscribe to us through Patreon.
Yes. So we'll get that set up. But yeah, this was awesome. Thank y'all for listening. The revolution is through dialogue.
This has been a joint podcast of WEBB Squared and Afro Future Productions. For those of you interested in learning more about our work at WEBB Squared, you can find out more at webbsquared.org. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is our conscious conversation. We hope you will subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. Join the Remedy Membership Forum on Patreon to join us monthly for our members-only discussion. That's it for today. Until next week, thanks for listening. What's underneath the situation you don't realize? So let's examine with a critical eye. Put on your glasses and let it magnify the truth that lies hidden under all those lies. Cause everybody has nobility, and if you look beyond what your eyes can see, you'll see they're just like you and me, and now we're giving you the remedy. Remedy.